Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual Open Enrollment Fair session. During today's session, we will go over Optum Bank Health Savings Account benefits. Before we get started, I would like to brief everyone on a couple housekeeping items. All attendees are muted and will remain muted throughout the presentation. And if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box located on the bottom of your monitor. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Be informed that if you type a question in the Q&A box, everyone attending the session will not see your question nor your name. If you have a confidential question, please contact the Benefits Division directly or your Benefits Ambassador. Lastly, today's webinar is being recorded and a copy will be posted on the Benefits Open Enrollment website. At this time, I will turn it over to our presenter, Suzanne Cheetah Bendel.
Thanks so much, Nedra, and good afternoon, all. Thank you for joining us today to review the Optum Financial HSA educational session for the upcoming open enrollment season with County of San Diego. As Nedra noted, we will address questions at the end of the session and get started now. First question, most asked is, what is an HSA? An HSA, or a health savings account, is an account that lets you deposit pre-tax dollars to pay for qualified medical, dental, and vision expenses. You sign up during open enrollment in conjunction with a qualifying high deductible health plan. You contribute money, income tax-free money to your account up to the IRS limits. You can adjust that amount that you elect at any point during the year. You can spend your HSA dollars on items such as glasses, prescription refills, and doctor's visits. You can earn interest on your balance. You may choose to invest HSA funds for potential added growth after meeting a minimum threshold balance. And best of all, balances carry over year. These funds are yours to keep. This is an individually owned account. If you change jobs, you may take those funds with you to your new employer, and those funds can be used into retirement as well. An HSA is designed to help you save money for use either today or later. HSAs help you save money in 3 different ways. Again, the funds going in are deposited tax-free. Earnings, such as interest or investment growth, is income tax-free. And funds spent on qualified expenses are also tax-free. Let's take a look at Jake, for example. He's 27, he's fairly healthy. When he started his new job, he decided to open an HSA and contribute $100 a month. He has only routine exams and no real medical expenses, so he's not touching his balance during the first year. As time passes and he turns 40, he starts using about $500 a year to cover health expenses. This is an example of how his balance grows. You can see the monthly contribution of $100, $1,200 balance at the beginning of the year. At age 65, he has $33,800 and shows an income tax savings of $356 annually. There is an HSA contribution calculator at optumbank.com to help you determine how much you would be seeing in tax savings. You may be questioning what is covered under an HSA. This is not a complete list, but acupuncture, chiropractic care, glasses, exams, eye exams and contact lenses, flu shots, nursing services, orthodontia, physical exams, physical therapy, prescriptions, psychiatric care, sunscreen, wheelchairs, walkers, and canes are all eligible expenses, as well as other items. As I said, this is not a comprehensive list. There's a qualified medical expense tool at optumbank.com to see if your specific expense is an HSA eligible expense. Calling out as well, if you use your HSA to pay for non-qualified expenses, the funds you use will be considered taxable income. They're subject to a 20% tax penalty. And so that's just something to keep in mind. The IRS does determine how much can be set aside each year. For 2023, the individual limit is $3,850. The family limit is $7,750. Um, when you are making the decision to open an HSA, something important to consider is how much you should be putting aside. A few questions that are most helpful, things to consider as you're strategizing what to do for the year. You need to consider what the health situation is in your household. Do you or any of your tax dependents have ongoing prescriptions? Is there a planned procedure or surgery? Is anyone getting braces? What's your health plan deductible? When do you plan to retire? And are you considering starting a family? All these things should be taken into consideration um, as uh, as you're determining the amount that you choose to set aside. Again, the IRS does set the limits that are allowable to set funds aside each year. When you're age 55 and older and not enrolled in Medicare, you can add an additional $1,000 called a catch-up contribution to your contribution amounts. This is a great way to strategize as you're approaching retirement to have the most funds on tap for future use. If you have a spouse and they also are 55 or older, they too can contribute an additional $1,000. Those funds would be contributed via a separate HSA account that your spouse would need to open. Calling out also if either spouse has family high deductible coverage, each spouse is treated as having a family HSA maximum limit. So if each spouse is covering the family under separate plans, or if each spouse has family coverage under separate plans, the contribution is still $7,750 collectively. So you'll want to coordinate with your spouse to determine who is contributing what amount, 750 and under. One thing folks question specific to an HSA is, how do I know if I am eligible? Most people are that are enrolled in a qualifying high deductible health plan are eligible, but there are a few are IRS requirements. First of which is you may not be covered by any other health plan that's not a high deductible health plan. You may not be enrolled in Medicare, TRICARE, or TRICARE for life. You may not receive VA benefits within the past 3 months except for preventive care. You may not be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. You don't have healthcare flexible spending or an HRA reimbursement plan. You may have a limited purpose FSA plan. Other restrictions and exceptions do apply. So if your situation is not clear cut, we suggest you consult your financial, tax, or legal advisor just to determine what is appropriate for you. One very known or little known powerful feature of an HSA is that you can invest your HSA funds. Once you have a $2,000 cash balance threshold. There are two different ways of doing this. If you're comfortable with mutual funds and the selection thereof, you may choose from a variety of four-star Morningstar rating uh, mutual funds. Um, Based on what is at your comfort level. If you need some help investing, you can get online investment support from Betterment, also known as a robo-advisor. The way that the Betterment program works is that you take a brief questionnaire about your risk, comfort, your goals, your age, etc. And based on the feedback to that, several funds will be suggested for you. When you look at the savings potential for investing through your HSA, using the example of contributing $3,000 a year into your HSA until retirement, with the assumption you use $1,500 a year for expenses and earn a 7% interest investment return and reinvest your earnings, your savings can definitely add up. Looking at an individual who has followed that formula starting at age 25, their HSA retirement value would be $320,420 at age 65. If you were to begin at age 35, you'd have 151,000, age 45, 65,000, and age 55, 22,000. So of course, starting early is your best bet for investing and becoming established with a nice nest egg to address financial concerns in retirement. The folks wanting to know how to access their HSA account, you may use a payment card, of course. There are cards issued with the opening of an HSA account. You can pay directly at a physician's office, chiropractor, or pharmacy. You can access your provider's website and use the card to pay the qualified expenses online. You may also order additional cards for family members that are covered under your plan. Using the Optum online portal, you can make deposits outside of payroll. You can pay bills or reimburse yourself, and you can also manage your investment activity. The mobile app allows you to do all those things as well: pay bills, track payments, reimburse yourself. You can use the qualified medical expense tool. You can capture and save receipts, deposit additional funds, calculate your contributions, and update your beneficiary. So it's a great way to uh, keep track on your HSA account. Most folks carry a smartphone, and it's a great way to monitor your and use your account. Common questions that we field: who owns my HSA? And that is you. An HSA is an individually owned account. It never expires. The funds roll over year. If you change jobs or retire, the funds in your HSA are yours to keep. Do I need to keep receipts? Yes, you are responsible in case questions or audit from the IRS to prove that distributions were eligible medical expenses. Um, it's best to keep documentation of this in case of a potential audit. You do not need to submit receipts when you're pulling funds from your HSA, but you really should hold on to them. Another question we hear commonly is, I already have an HSA. Can I open another one? You certainly may. If you have an HSA at another institution, you can open an HSA with Optum Bank as long as you're eligible to have an HSA. We do suggest that you combine the HSAs for the convenience of having your funds in one spot. There are several benefits to this, first of which is managing one account. And second, the funds consolidate and you are able to reach your investment threshold earlier, combining funds from an existing HSA. So what's next? Make sure you know your open enrollment dates, and if an HSA is right for you, you make that enrollment. You can typically change your contribution amounts at any time during the year, but in many cases, you can only make major changes to your benefits once a year, unless you have a qualifying life event. Um, that pretty much summarizes the HSA education session. Is there any questions or anything that I can clarify for you?
Hi, Suzanne. We've got a few questions and thank you for that informative session. Our first question is regarding the 20% penalty. Um, is that in addition to the taxes, or do we just pay the one-time 20% penalty?
This is in addition to the taxes,
Great.
and this would be assessed by the IRS.
We have another question. I would like to confirm what I heard is correct. If I could be covered by a spouse on a non-HDHP plan, then would I not be able to enroll in an HSA and a high deductible health plan?
That is correct. If you are covered under a PPO under your spouse, you are not eligible to enroll in an HSA. You first of all must be um, covered under a high deductible health plan, and you may not have dual coverage under a PPO.
Okay, great. Another clarifying question. You had mentioned that it would be prudent for individuals to combine their HSA accounts. How would they go about doing that with Optum?
There is a form that's pretty straightforward. It will give the information needed to the seeding company, the company that already exists that you wish to transfer the funds to Optum Financial. And we can
Excellent.
certainly ensure the County of San Diego folks, HR team does have that form.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Another great question here. Is there a minimum amount to invest in mutual funds?
There is a minimum amount. You must have a $2,000 cash balance threshold in your HSA account. So investments are done in $100 increments. So that first $100 over your $2,000 cash balance may be invested.
Excellent.
You're required to leave $2,000 in your cash balance. I will call out at this point, Nedra, that it's a very quick process to move funds from your cash balance account to your investment account. Or if you have an expense come up that you need to pay, it takes roughly 2 business days to transfer the funds from the investment account back to your cash balance account for use.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. We have a couple more questions, and these are all great. Keep them coming in, everyone. Our next question is, can I get a reimbursement for an old medical expense?
You can get a reimbursement for an old medical expense, provided you were covered under the high deductible health plan and HSA at the time that that expense was incurred.
All righty. Next question. Can I use my HSA for my spouse's medical expenses if they are covered by Medicare?
Yes, you can. If you are covered by you or your spouse are covered by Medicare, any balance that you have in your HSA is eligible for use to reimburse those expenses. The only caveat is that the spouse must be a tax dependent of yours.
Okay. Our next question, Suzanne, is going back to one of our other questions that you responded to. You shared that you cannot be covered under a spouse's PPO. What about if my spouse has a HMO? Could I be covered and elect a high deductible health plan in an HSA?
You could not. You would need to be covered only by a high deductible health plan in order to participate in an HSA plan.
Okay. Excellent. Another great question. Are there any limitations for orthodontics?
The only thing which I have never seen call out in all the years that I've worked with HSAs is that it must be for non-cosmetic reasons, the orthodontic treatment. So it must not be specifically for uh, cosmetic reasons. It would be correcting a bite, etc.
All righty. Thank you for that information. Another great question here. Do I set up the contribution through county payroll or by myself?
You would set this up through payroll. However, if you wish to make a contribution outside of payroll, you are able to do so. One thing with HSA accounts is you can make a contribution directly from your bank account to the HSA. You can have your payroll funded to your HSA, or say you got a bonus or you and great Aunt Betty gave you $500 for Christmas and you didn't have anywhere that you wanted to put those funds, and you thought, why don't I pop this into my HSA? You can put those funds in your HSA as well. Any contributions made on your behalf, whether they be through County of San Diego or your own personal contribution, those funds all go toward the IRS's maximum contribution limit.
Excellent. It looks like we have a follow-up question regarding if their spouse is covered under Medicare and using their HSA expenses for their spouse's medical. Um, Sounds like if their spouse is retired, can they still use the HSA funds?
Yep, they sure can. The caveat with Medicare and HSAs is that once you, as an employee, become covered by Medicare, you may no longer contribute. So if you are under 65 and you are not enrolled in Medicare, but your spouse is, you would may need to adjust your status from an individual contribution maximum, or rather to an individual contribution maximum from family. If you have dependents, underage kids that you're still covering, you could still have the family contribution amount maximum. But that's as you have one spouse in a situation where somebody is their kids are no longer dependents, one individual is still working, the spouse is retired non-Medicare, you would no longer be able to contribute at the family level.
Excellent. Thank you for that information, Suzanne. And that next question is, my child needs implants. Technically, it is classified as cosmetic, but she was born without certain permanent teeth. Are there any concessions for this?
You would need to get a letter of medical necessity, and would want to just clear that with your orthodontist and your plan.
Great. Another good question. How do we request the reimbursement and how can I reimburse myself?
Reimbursing yourself is quite straightforward. You would log onto your account, and you could reimburse yourself in one of two manners. You could either establish connection with your personal bank account and send the funds in that fashion. Again, that's a roughly 2 business day transfer to get funds moved over. I do this myself on a fairly regular basis. The other option would be also to access the portal and have a check sent to yourself and the amount that you wish to reimburse. Another option would be to pull funds via an ATM, via a cash machine. Only caveat with that is there is a charge for that. There is typically like I even want to say $2.50 fee from the bank that's pushing the cash out of the ATM, and there is a $2.50 fee from Optum to dispense it in that matter. So save yourself $5 and get that automatic uh, connection between your bank account established.
Hmm. Okay, I see another question coming in. And for those of you who had joined us after we had already started, we will rerun the presentation shortly. Okay, our next question. I have a remaining balance in my FSA account. Will I be able to split my reimbursement with my FSA and HSA? Not sure. Maybe we need a little more
Yeah, I
information on
think we
that,
get
Suzanne.
yeah, a bit more context on that. I don't know the specifics of County of San Diego's FSA plans. What I do know is that FSA plans typically have a run out date, so that claims would need to be submitted by either 60 days after the end of the plan year or 90 days, depending on how the plan is established. Um, y- if you could provide more context, perhaps we can give a more specific answer. It is possible to have a limited purpose FSA in conjunction with an HSA. Nedra, can you confirm that County of San Diego does offer a limited purpose?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay. So a limited purpose is a great way to preserve your HSA funds. A limited purpose is an FSA that you can use only for vision and dental charges. And so it's a great way to be strategic if you know there are folks in in your household are going to need glasses, contacts, that type of thing, or some specific dental care. By setting aside the FSA funds, the limited purpose FSA funds, you wouldn't need to deplete your HSA to pay for those known expenses. So that's just a little sidebar. I'll defer to the HR team on their on the guidelines with the with the limited purpose and the run out timeline.
Yes, and that's very great information. This individual did confirm that the FSA that they have is just for their dental and vision um, expenses. So it does sound like they're participating in the limited purpose at this
Great.
time.
Got it. Yep. No,
Okay.
and that's an excellent strategy that we highly recommend. Take a look at what's going on in your household. Is there dental work coming up in the plan year? Are there braces going on kids' teeth, contacts, glasses, that type of thing? Those funds are available the first day of the plan year, so that is always a nice thing with FSAs. Whereas with HSAs, you have to wait for them to be posted into your account.
Mhm. Definitely a good strategy and planning that's needed. Here we go to another question, Suzanne. Is there a monthly fee for having an HSA account with Optum?
Oh, that's a great question. I did not double check. I believe that County of San Diego does cover that expense.
I believe
It
you're right, and I can double check
okay.
on that as well.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to switch screens and show behind the curtain here. I will call out that if an individual does leave employment with County of San Diego, those administrative fees, which are usually around $2.50, I want to say, are do become the responsibility of the account holder. If they are above a certain balance, which from memory, I want to say is $3,000, if you have a cash balance over that amount, then that administrative fee is waived.
Okay. Let's see. Another great question here. Are monthly reoccurring payments possible?
They sure are. You can schedule those payments via the Optum Bank portal. Just set it up so that every month a certain amount goes. Very straightforward. I did that back in the day when my kids had orthodontia.
Great. And just to get back to the employee who inquired about the fee, if there's a fee with an HSA account, unfortunately, the county does not pay for those fees. There is a $2 fee that's given to the employee for the administration of that HSA account.
Gotcha. Thanks for clarifying that. So that $2 monthly administrative fee would be pulled directly from your balance. It's not something that you're invoiced for per se.
All righty, let's see another question here. Let's say that I bought something that was not eligible. Would this be something that they would let me know about at the end of the year? Or would that be right
Uh,
away?
no, and so to clarify that scenario, it is the account holder's responsibility to confirm that the item purchased is an eligible expense, medically appropriate. In the event that you purchase something that is not appropriate, it would be on you to recognize that and put the funds back in. Optum Financial does not monitor that. Um, should the IRS audit and discover that, then they would take action at that point.
All righty, another great question. Can we use the HSA account on dependents over 25 years of age?
You sure can. As long as an individual is a tax dependent of yours, you may use your HSA funds for them. They must be a tax dependent, though. At such point as they become I'm using air quotes here, you can't see me, traditionally noted as an adult, and they're filing their own taxes, at that point, you would not be able to use your HSA funds for them.
Mhm. All great questions, everyone. Right now, it's a little silent in the Q&A box. Suzanne, give it a little more time and maybe we'll run through the presentation again.
Okay, sounds good. One thing I will call out about that last question about non-tax dependent. Um, if you have a young adult covered under your high deductible health plan and they are not a tax dependent, they can open an HSA independently and they can contribute up to the family amount and use those funds. So coverage under a high deductible health plan allows them to open an HSA. And then I'm going to stop sharing a moment and get to the top of the presentation.
Sounds great. A lot of great information, Suzanne. We appreciate you calling out all the detailed information and sharing your words of wisdom on the HSA plan.
Absolutely. All right, looks like we're at the beginning of the deck again. I'm going to go ahead and start if you have no objections.
Take it away. It's all yours.
All righty. Welcome to the HSA overview in anticipation of the County of San Diego's open enrollment season. We're going to learn about HSAs. Starting off with a description of what an HSA is. A health savings account, or HSA, is an account that allows you to save money by letting you use income tax-free funds to pay for qualified medical, dental, and vision expenses. You would sign up during open enrollment. You must be enrolled in a qualifying high deductible health plan. And of course, with open enrollment season, we expose everyone to just a ton of acronyms. A high deductible health plan is known as an HDHP. You can contribute funds on a tax-free basis to your account up to the IRS limits and adjust those amounts at any time during the year. If you should find that it's a bit too aggressive for your budget, you can reduce the amount. If you find that you're not putting enough aside, you can increase that amount. You may spend those HSA dollars on many items such as glasses, prescription refills, doctor visits, physical therapy, mental health treatment. You can earn interest on your balance. And once you hit a specific threshold, you may invest those HSA funds for potential growth after, again, once you meet that minimum threshold. The balances of an HSA carry over year to year. If you should change jobs, it goes with you to your new employment. These funds carry over into retirement, and you can use these funds while you are on Medicare. An HSA is designed to help you save money for use today or later. Calling out as well that many folks are treating HSAs very similar to 401k these days, treating it as a secondary growth vehicle to save funds for retirement. Again, repeating myself, the HSA helps save you money by saving, earning, and spending tax free. The money in, the deposits are exempt from tax. The earnings and growth through investment are tax free. And the funds spent on qualified medical expenses are also tax free. Jake is an example. At age 27, he's healthy. When he started his new job, he opened an HSA and started putting $100 a month in. At this point in his life, he doesn't have many medical expenses beyond routine, so he's not touching the balance his first year. As he gracefully ages, as we all do, hitting 40, he starts using about $500 a year, and each year after that to cover health costs. This is an illustration of how his balances grow. This is assuming 22% federal tax and 7.65 FICA. The results and amounts obviously depend on your particular circumstances. But looking at that initial startup of $100 monthly going in, $1,200 balance at the end of the first year, balance at age 65 is 33,800. It calculates out to an income tax savings of $356. Items that are covered under the HSA include acupuncture, chiropractic, eye care, glasses, contact lenses, flu shots, nursing services, non-cosmetic orthodontia, physical exams, physical therapy, prescriptions, refills as well, psychiatric care, chemical dependency care, sunscreen of SPF 15 or greater, wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and a ton more. The Qualified Medical Expense tool at OptumBank.com does have an interactive tool that allows you to put in an item that you're considering to see whether or not it qualifies. One question faced by folks who are contemplating a HSA is how much should I contribute and how much can I contribute? Again, the IRS does determine the amount that is able to be set aside. You can see the 2022 limits on the right-hand side of the slide. The 2023 limits have increased due to inflation. I've not seen these increases of this amount ever before. An individual can set aside up to $3,850. Somebody who has a high deductible health plan covering family can set aside $7,750. When you're age 55 or older and not enrolled in Medicare, you can add an additional $1,000 each year. It's called a catch-up contribution. If you have a spouse who is likewise over age 55, they too can contribute an additional $1,000 a year. This is a great way to sock away funds and really plump up this HSA savings as you anticipate retirement and with the aging population, the likelihood of medical expenses. I will call out if your spouse does opt to fund an additional $1,000, they would need to open a standalone HSA account and contribute that $1,000 there. Strategizing how much to contribute in each plan year is a great idea to take a look at your household and what your plans are. Do you have any ongoing prescriptions? Do you have any chronic health care that or chronic treatment or ongoing treatment that you're undergoing? When do you plan to retire? Are you considering starting a family? One thing to consider is how much your health plan deductible is. Many folks use that as the guideline to how much they would want to set aside before their health plan kicks in for non-routine. Is someone in your family getting braces or having a planned surgery or procedure? These are all things to consider. As noted in an earlier presentation, if you do have the option of enrolling in a limited purpose FSA, which is an FSA that covers only vision and dental expenses. It's a great way to conserve your HSA, particularly if you have a household where there's dental care coming up, braces, or glasses or contact lenses being purchased. How do you know if you're eligible for an HSA? Uh, Most folks that are covered under a qualifying high deductible health plan are eligible. Here are a few caveats, a few more IRS requirements. You may not be covered by any other health plan that is not a high deductible health plan. You may not be enrolled in Medicare, TRICARE, or TRICARE for life. You may not have received VA benefits in the last 3 months other than preventive care. Of course, this exclusion doesn't apply if you have a disability rating. You may not be claimed as a dependent on someone else's taxes. You may not have a healthcare flexible spending account or an HRA alternative plan design. Again, I noted earlier a limited purpose FSA, which is allowable, is different than an FSA. There are other restrictions and exceptions which may apply. If it is not a clear-cut answer whether or not you're eligible, we suggest you speak with a tax, legal, or financial advisor to review your personal circumstance. One thing many folks don't know is that there are uh, options to invest your HSA funds. Once you are over a certain cash balance threshold, which I believe is $2,000, there are a slate of mutual funds which are available with low expense ratios, high Morningstar ratings, with a wide variety of funds to meet your needs. This is typically used by folks who are more familiar with investing and mutual funds. If you are getting your first exposure to investing, dipping your toe in the water, the robo-advisor or digitally managed investments may be the way to go for you. This is known also as the robo-advisor through Betterment, essentially based on a questionnaire that you complete. What's your age? What are your goals? When do you intend to retire? What's your comfort with risk? Based on feedback to those questions, a slate of funds will be recommended for you, and you can go in that route. Taking a look at the savings potential, if you contribute 3,000 a year to your HSA until retirement, you use 1,500 for medical expenses, and then earn 7% in interest investments and reinvest all your earnings, the savings can add up. If you were to start with that theme at age 25, you'd have over $320,000 at age 65. At age 35, if you begin, you'd have over 151,000. Age 45, 65,000, and at age 55, 22,000. Again, the investment in the HSA is a great way to grow your HSA savings and use those funds in retirement. The investments are not FDIC insured. Um, they are subject to risk, but this is certainly an option should you wish to pursue that. There's several different ways to access your account. You're not limited to one or another. There's again a lot of flexibility. You can use the payment card that is issued when you open an HSA to pay at a physician's office, chiropractor, or pharmacy. You can use the card to pay for expenses online, and you can order additional cards for family members if you wish to send a card off with a, a young adult to college, or a spouse wants a card. These cards would be in their name. Another access point for the account is the online portal. You can make deposits, pay bills, you can reimburse yourself, and manage your investment account activity. The mobile app allows you to do all those things with the convenience of your phone. You can pay bills, track payments, reimburse yourself. You can search for qualified medical expenses. You can capture and submit receipts. You can deposit funds. You can calculate your contributions and update your beneficiary. So anything that can be done on the online portal can be done on the mobile app and vice versa. The mobile app, of course, has the convenience of portability. Common questions with an HSA include who owns my HSA? HSA accounts are individually owned and they belong to the account holder. They're portable and those funds move with you. Should you retire? Should you change employment? Should you lose employment? Should you leave employment? Those funds are yours and they go with you. You do not forfeit those funds. They travel with you into retirement for use at that point. Another common question is, do I need to keep my receipts? Yes, you should. Optum Financial does not require that you submit receipts in order to pull funds or reimburse yourself or make a payment. However, should the IRS choose to audit, they will want to know what those funds were spent on, and they will want to confirm um, that those funds were used for appropriate items. Another question is, or statement, I have an HSA. Can I open another one? You certainly may, as long as you are eligible for opening an HSA, as long as you are enrolled in a high deductible health plan that qualifies. We do encourage folks to encourage their historical HSA with their Optum Financial HSA for a few reasons. First of which, it's much easier to keep track of one HSA, one set of cards, maintain and track one balance. Second, it's a great way to grow your HSA savings to get you to the point that you are able to invest. Again, once you hit that $2,000 threshold, you are able to invest. That's something certainly to consider. So what's next? We encourage you to confirm your enrollment dates for your open enrollment season with County of San Diego. Take a look at an HSA option, make that selection, and strategically choose how much to contribute and how to use those funds. Reduce the taxes all around. And should you need to adjust those contributions amounts through the year, spend and use the account for your care. That is it for the presentation. If we want to check the Q&A box, Nedra.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions. The first one, how long should I keep my receipts?
That is a great question. I don't know what the time frame is for the IRS to do audits. I don't know how long that is. There is a spot on the portal, which is accessible also by the mobile app, where you can save receipts indefinitely. So essentially what you can do is upload a copy of an invoice or a copy of an EOB, which is an explanation of benefits, showing, for instance, you had a procedure and the insurance company paid X amount and you were responsible for X amount. You can keep that amount there to justify that out-of-pocket amount was yours to pay. But that's a great question. I'm not certain how long the IRS has to go back and look. I'll ask around on that one.
Okay. Probably a tax consultant as well. But yeah, we'd be happy to find out more information for you, for the employee who's asking that question. We have another great question, in which I'm happy to answer. Who is the point of contact regarding more detailed questions on HSAs? You can actually discuss further with your benefits ambassador. The county has benefits ambassadors throughout all the locations where we're employing individuals. Also, the benefits division is available to answer some questions as well. Another great question, Suzanne. What constitutes a high deductible health plan?
Oh, goodness. Of course, I don't have my exact numbers. Let me double check my cheat sheet over here. The IRS dictates the amounts. Bear with me a second. The minimum deductible for a high deductible health plan would be $1,500 for an individual or $3,000 for a family. So if you have a plan that has a deductible of those amounts or higher, they would also require a maximum out of pocket $7,500 for an individual and $15,000 for a family.
Great. Another question. When I retire and if I have money in my HSA, to y- can I continue to use it till it's $0, including my spouse, using the funds for my spouse?
Yep. And so another thing about HSAs in retirement, as long as long as you use those funds for an eligible expense, those funds come out non-taxed and non-penalty. If you use those funds uh, for for a non-medical thing, non-medical item, they would just be considered taxable income, but there would be no penalty at age 65. But yes, you can use those funds for um, eligible expenses as well, non-tax, non-penalty.
Great information. Thank you, Suzanne. And looks like for now we're a little quiet on the Q&A box.
One thing that I can share, Nedra, in terms of reimbursing oneself for expenses, um, it's entirely a great idea to be strategic about using your HSA. This is an example I've used in many of my presentations. My apologies if I've used it in this historical session with County of San Diego. Back when my kids were younger and in orthodontics and braces, sometimes I would reimburse the monthly orthodontic charges with my HSA card,
Mhm.
and other times I would use my own personal account. At a later point, I'd pull those funds out to reimburse myself. I could do so by either transferring those funds to my personal checking account. You could also send a check to yourself, or you could pull those funds via an ATM. Um, Unfortunately, with an ATM, there is a surcharge from the bank that is releasing the funds and also from Optum Financial. It runs about $5 total. So I'm a fan of moving those funds electronically to my own checking account. But it's a great way to, strategize and use the funds when you need them and when they're available.
That is certainly a great strategy. Thanks for sharing that. And for those of you who are still listening, take notes. That's, I like that. All righty, we have a question coming through here. In the presentation, you mentioned you can only get an HSA account if you cannot be claimed as a dependent. If possible, can you expand on this? And what is the criteria for being claimed as a dependent?
If you file taxes and you claim your spouse and you claim your children, those people can be covered under your HSA. If your young adult child, for example, has an adult job and files their own taxes, they may not benefit from the HSA funds that you have in your account. They can open their own HSA and they can separately contribute up to the amount of the plan that they're covered under. So if you still cover them under their high deductible health plan, under your high deductible health plan, but they file their own taxes, they can contribute to a separate HSA up to the family amount and use those funds. But you may not use the funds that you have in your HSA for a non-tax dependent.
Mhm. And Suzanne, just out of curiosity, I'm assuming the same rule applies for a parent. If I claim parent on my taxes, would I be able to use my HSA for the parent as well?
Help me out here. So, a spouse or a parent?
A parent.
Oh, that's
What
a
are the
good
rules
question.
on that?
That's one I'm going to have to take away, Nedra.
Okay. Okay. And while we think on that one, we have another question I'll put out there from the Q&A box. Is there an alternative for a health plan with a $1,500 maximum? And I'm assuming this is the 1,500 maximum for the deductible.
Um, I know the guidelines set up for plan year 2023. In order for a high deductible health plan to be considered eligible for an HSA, uh, for an individual, the minimum deductible would be $1,500 and it would be $3,000 for a family coverage. So per IRS guidelines, those are the minimum deductibles allowing a high deductible health plan to be eligible for HSA.
Oh, great. Let's see. Okay. Looks like we answered the question. I got some more feedback on what was being asked. And yes, they clarified that it's for deductible and the max for that deductible.
Gotcha. Okay.
Almost a tongue twister for me. Sorry about that. All righty. Here's another great question. I filed my tax jointly with my husband since he's retired and has Medicare, so he can still use my HSA funds for medical expenses. I asked this question because someone asked about dependents, which I am not sure for my situation. So it sounds like it's not quite a question, just a comment to clarify for you, Suzanne. So thank you for that input,
Yep.
that employee, for sharing that information.
Great. Good. I'm glad that was clarified. Yeah, the thing to look out for is your limits as well. So say Bob and Mary are a couple. Mary is still employed. Bob is retired and enrolled in Medicare. Mary and Mary does not have any additional dependents on the high deductible health plan. Mary would need to be cognizant that she can contribute only up to the individual maximum. Once somebody enrolls in Medicare, that removes their eligibility to contribute into an HSA. So Mary could continue to contribute as an individual, but she could not contribute at the family rate.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you for that information. Very informative.
All you wanted to know about HSAs, but we're afraid to ask.
I know, exactly. Especially when the IRS is involved, right?
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Well, it looks like we're out of questions in the Q&A box, and the attendance participation is dropping.
Okay. Entirely up to you. I can run through the deck again, see if we have folks join or
Oh, we might not need to run through the presentation again, but we do have another question. I am 24 years old and still on my mom's health care. I am waiving all medical. Would I still be eligible for the FSA? HSA, sorry.
Got it. Well, you'll have to check on what type of plan your mom has. And my understanding is that since you are covered through mom's plan, you would not be eligible to join the HSA under County of San Diego. You could, if your mom does have a high deductible health plan, you could uh, go to a credit union and enroll in an HSA there. But my understanding, Nedra, is that County of San Diego would not be contributing their portion unless an individual was enrolled in the County of San Diego sponsored high deductible health plan.
Yes, that is correct.
Sorry,
Okay.
this is
They
Sarah from the
could-
County of San Diego. So if an employee is waiving because they're covered under a high deductible health plan, then the excess flex credits would go into a health savings account. So in that situation, if your mom's
Oh.
plan is a high deductible health plan, you would select that you're waiving due to coverage under a high deductible health plan, and any excess flex credits you receive will go into the health savings account.
Thank you, Sarah.
That's an awesome benefit. That is not that is not common out in the wild. And one thing, as long as we're giving a little commentary on HSA plans, um, folks may be hesitant to enroll in an HSA, but looking at what the County of San Diego does contribute on your behalf, don't leave free money out there. It's a great way to stash away funds. I know when health savings accounts began to become more common years ago. Um, I believe folks weren't cognizant of how quickly the funds could add up. Um, at the same time, with the rising cost of medical care, they can be depleted quite quickly. So, um, ensuring that you have that safety net and coverage is just a great responsible strategy.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I'd like to remind those of you who are still with us that a copy of the presentation will be posted on Insight as part of our open enrollment. And you'll be able to listen again. And if you have any other questions regarding the plan itself, you can certainly reach out to your benefits ambassador or the benefits division. And Suzanne, I believe we can conclude the webinar. We are down to minimum numbers on attendees here.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
I will follow up. I have a few takeaway questions. Looking for how long the IRS has to audit and how long folks should save receipts. Um, and then there was another question about an adult parent as a tax dependent in HSA usage.
Great. And if you can send that information back to me via email, that'd be great. And I can give the feedback to the employees who've inquired.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sponsoring. Any questions that may come up, please feel free to reach out.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. And thanks for everyone for attending. This now concludes the webinar. Have a great rest of the day.